Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to unbox another Elves box by Sophie and Toffee, and this is their June Elves box, which has the theme Plaster Perfect. So I'm really excited about this because this is supposedly a plaster, not a resin box. Also we get some new color of tissue paper, this nice green, so I always appreciate that because I reuse those. The booklet has a very simple design, and as always all their social media information on the back, but let's have a look at the items. So we get some water-based pigment in purple and blue. These must be for coloring the plaster since oil-based won't work. And then we have this glue, which has me a little bit worried because it looks like it's built in the packaging. Now, at a closer look, I cannot really see which type of glue this is, but it looks like there's still some liquid in there. And it actually feels a little bit more like gummy rubbery than super glue does. And it definitely doesn't smell like super glue, so I'm not too sure which glue this is, but I'm pretty positive that I can probably peel off the sides of it and make it work again. Next up we have this flower collection, or I guess it's some pearls, some purple flowers and some purple, like kind of this like colored moss type. And then we get some cups, so we get some large cups, two like medium-sized cups with measurements, and then a small cup, so these will be super handy not only for the plaster but also for future things. And then we got some extra sealed plastic gloves. I don't know why you need the double seal, but I appreciate the extra bag that I can use. And then we get these stones, they're really pretty. So we have like a red, purple, grey and like a blue turquoise kind of color scheme going on. And then we have this, it was really hard to read, but I could kind of look through the camera, it was actually better to read. It's caulk. It's like very sandy, grainy and wet, so this is the stuff that you put in between the gaps of the stones, I guess. And then we have this, and all I could make out from this bottle was like something like fragrance oil or such. You can kind of see the part of the fragrance and then the oil on camera, but yeah. I don't know why the labels are so washed out. I don't know if that's like a strange reaction with like the fragrance oil or something like that, but yeah. Our first mold actually is this cute little teddy bear mold, and then we have this like ring mold with a hanger like whole thing on top. And then we have one of the most handy molds in my opinion, which is a coaster mold. I use coaster molds so much. And then of course we have a plaster, and it looks like it's packaged in like separate little baggies. And it says it's 30 minutes quick drying, so I'm actually excited to see if that's true. And I guess this ribbon is meant to be for hanging up the round loop thing. And it says love is eternal in gold letters, and it's like this light purple kind of color. And then we got a collection of tools, which is really neat. So we got a measuring cup, some tweezers, some like mixy spoon type things, stirry sticks, this sanding paper pad, and a sponge with like two different sides, like one smooth and one like textured. And that's everything, so let's have a look inside the booklet. I honestly have to say I love the illustrations, they're cute, but it's also not quite handy because the icons don't really match the items, and sometimes I'm not sure if an item is supposed to be a different item than it actually is, if that makes sense. But as we can see, yeah, the glue just is labeled as plaster glue, so I have no idea what to supplement it with. And it's kind of missing the fragrance oil description, so I have no idea which fragrance oil this is, if I didn't miss it on accident. But here we have all of the instructions, so they show like all the equipment you should use and how to actually like mix in the proper proportions for this. And something important they say is do not add fragrance until later, so you don't mix the fragrance since it's oil based into the plaster, it can inhibit it from curing. I think the fragrance is meant to be dropped on top of the plaster after it cures. I actually have a fragrance stone myself that's like plaster in this way. So yeah, basically what you do is you dribble it on top, and then it like slowly gets released into the air by the plaster. And apparently that's what the teddy bear is also for. But I guess you can use many different molds for this kind of stuff. And I also, of course, show you how to use the caulk and all that. And lastly, one of the most important pages in this booklet, in my opinion, which is the community showcase. I miss this in some of the booklets, and I think it's a beautiful showcase. And I have to appreciate the giant stack of Sophie and Toffee boxes. Yep, that's a quite accurate collection of boxes. Although by now I actually reuse them as like sending packages because they have the perfect size for that. But anyways, let's get into our project. Now, I'm not actually gonna make the things they say in the booklet. I have two not very different ideas, but different ideas. So I first wanna mix up the plaster, and I'm actually measuring it out. So all of the measurements I'm doing here is their recommended measurements. And as we'll notice soon, first of all, Marandi pigment apparently is like oil-based or something like that, or because that doesn't work. So I used acrylic paints. I worked with acrylic paints and plaster before. The important thing is to actually not use too much, because if you use too much it will do some funky things with the plaster. But in my case it worked out really well. And as you can see, it's not really liquid, like the plaster should be liquid. I saw that in their examples, and that's usually how plaster is. It's really paste-like, almost like sculptamot. I wonder if this is either a different batch of plaster that has gone bad or something. But yeah, it was super satisfying to spread around, don't get me wrong, it's just, yeah, you couldn't really even it out. So actually you wanted to use up the back, so I actually mixed up the rest of this for this project too, but with more water. And I experimented a little bit with where to add the color and I found the most even color you kind of get when you mix it in with the water first. As you can see, the first layer has like a little bit of a black separation, and that's because I mix it in with the plaster and water. This one is a very even, like grayish black color, and that's basically just mixed in the color with the water really well. And yeah, it still had like a very spreadable consistency, but I mixed in a little bit more water so I can tap it and like even it out a little bit. And then for the last coat, where I'm gonna embed the stones in, I'm actually gonna mix a little bit more water so it doesn't cure as fast, and I can like evenly embed the stones. And with this one I wanted to try the colorant in the plaster and then add the water, and yeah, this one isn't even at all from the color dispersion, so yeah, definitely stick with actually mixing it into the water. And then I just randomly placed the stones. I decided for the pinks I'm definitely gonna use the blues later in another project too, but I really felt like these would look really nice with this combination. I want to experiment a little bit maybe with the blue and use like a different background color, make something different, maybe like how they described you should do it with the caulk and all that. But yeah, for this one all I'm doing is I basically just randomly place the stones in, and then I'm trying to like shuffle them around a little bit so they're a bit closer together in the middle. And then I noticed I have way too little plaster to cover them properly, and it was not even at all, so I mixed another batch, of course. Since I wanted the color evenly, I actually mixed the pigment into the plaster mix this time too. And then I spread it around. I made sure to like leave a thin layer only on the stone so I will not have problems uncovering them, but I think it will look like a nicer blend with the edges when they're actually a slight bit covered. And I guess that's what the sponge is for, just removing the plaster. Which took a while, but it was very satisfying. The only thing I had to do in the end, of course, was to clean everything up. Since I used black pigment, yeah, that was everywhere. Now, the good thing about when the plaster is this slightly wet and you use this is you don't really get any dust at all, and you don't need to sand it, so the glass on the stones don't really get scratched. But yeah, I think it turned out actually quite beautiful on how the stones shine through. I'm very happy with the arrangement of them. I was kind of worried when I put them in randomly. At first I thought I would maybe make like a pattern or something, but now I'm really happy with how they randomly lay. Now the next project will be something very similar, and for this one I actually used another bag of plaster. It's the same ratio, yes, I definitely measured that out. like before, so I'm using like a full plaster bag. I actually mix it first to reduce the plaster a little bit, because there's a lot of air bubbles, and once the water soaks in it will get a little bit less, so it fits in the cup. And then I wanted to use the purple dye because I think it would look nice, and I wanted to try to actually put something in there. Now they suggest putting the flowers in on top, which I guess worked out. I wanted to see if this actually shines through, but yeah, no, the gold definitely didn't. So I actually picked up the gold flakes with my hands and applied them to the mold. We already know this works with resin, so I hope the plaster will also pick it up out of the mold. And yeah, this is basically working with static, since the silicone mold is very thick, so it will stick very nicely. I'm trying to disperse it quite evenly, and then just basically pouring the plaster in. And this also gave the plaster some time to degas a little, which is good, so there's not as much air bubbles in there anymore, but you shouldn't really wait too long to pour it, because it will harden quite quickly. And as you can see with this one, it's much more liquidy, and yeah, with this one I can actually tap it to get out the air bubbles, which worked super nicely. And this one actually didn't take as long to cure as the other one, and it feels way more like sturdy, and it actually has got the sheen from the mold, which is really nice and even. And as you can see, it picked up the gold perfectly well. Now, as you can see, I tried to destroy it, but it's really hard actually, because for the project I kind of need to split it. So basically what I did is I wrapped it in a towel and carefully stepped on it. I didn't want to actually hurt my foot, and that worked well. So yeah, this plaster is quite good, it's quite sturdy. So my idea is, put in a piece of plaster on one side and then pour in resin. So here I'm just mixing some new 1-to-1 resin that I got. Actually, this is the first time I'm trying this resin out. And I have to say, after this project, I can confidently say it's really good. I waited for Sophie and Toffee to restock their resin, their larger volumes, because it's too expensive to just get the small ones shipped. And yeah, it still hasn't really gotten restocked. I got turned on the email notification and stuff, and yeah, no, nothing, sadly. So I actually went on a hunt, and I found one German company that recently popped up. I will actually maybe show you guys in a later video which one that is after I tested it out a little bit more. But basically I wanted a 1-to-1 ratio resin which doesn't mix the colors too much, like the Sophie and Toffee one, which is more viscous. Because the other ones I found, most of the art resins are like from France, and they are very liquidy, so they will immediately mix the colors. I mean, they're great for larger purses and all that, and they will definitely give a beautiful resin pour, but they will not work with half of the projects I'm doing, you know, when I mix like different colors into one mold and stuff. And it will take about 3 days for those to cure, and for this it's just 18 to 24 hours to like fully harden. So yeah, this one should work out really nicely. And as you can see, I actually tried to get the resin underneath the plaster piece. I should have maybe like poured a bit of resin then put in the plaster piece, but I only saw like when I poured the resin already that it was like giving bubbles on the side, so that's why I tried to like get them out a little bit to just, you know, force in the resin there. And I hope it will work out and have like hopefully almost no air bubbles. And then I also added these flowers in there and these petals in there, so let's see how that will look. And as you can see, the resin actually cured perfectly, and yeah, it was super easy to demold, so that's also good, because that means it definitely didn't get too hot. Although it did change the colors of the petals a little bit, but that's what the Sophie and Toffee one also did. They became like a little greenish color and got like tinted. You can see the plaster has a little bit of dark spots, but that's my fault because I touched it with dirty hands after I was cleaning off the stones for this coaster mold, but else it looks really pretty, and there's hardly like any air bubbles on the plaster surface where I like tried to get the resin underneath. And here you can see the other coaster mold. I topped this one because it was super uneven, and I was worried when it get wet that the black actually may come off. As you can see with a finger test, it doesn't really, although it's not quite dry. As you can see, like there's a definite color change. I was really lucky in that the resin still stuck perfectly well, and there's like only like a slight blemish on the top. Yeah, I let that plaster dry for quite a while, but after like having it sit a couple days more, I can definitely tell it wasn't completely dry, so make sure your plaster is dry before you pour resin. The other one was, but I guess this was just a faulty package. And I have to say, I absolutely love the results. Like the black one with the glitter comes out so nicely, and I love the embedding effect. Like that's something you cannot get with resin as easily, because if you get resin on any of the stones, you cannot really clean it off, besides scratching it off. So the plaster gives the perfect effect here. As for the like third plaster road, I was actually going for like halving the thing, but of course it breaks how it wants to break. And I think like, I mean, I have 2/3 left over. I can do like different colors and all that, and I think that's really nice. The colorant turned a little bit less purple, but that's just because the white of the plaster is overpowering it. But I'm still super happy with how both of these coasters turn out. The only thing I should have done is maybe wipe the mold before and after pouring the plaster, because as you can see, the clear part of the resin got slightly foggy, and that's just because there was like a slight bit of plaster residue in there. But overall it turned out super nice, and I'm definitely gonna use both of those. So yeah. What did I think of the Plaster Perfect box overall? I think it's really handy and neat. We got a lot of tools for a lot of different projects, and I mean, you can use any mold you want to make the oil diffusing thing. The only thing I'm curious about, which I won't test out because I don't really like the fragrance and I don't have any fragrance at home right now, is since plaster was very slick, at least the one that properly mixed, I couldn't see personally like a difference in between the plasters, but either it is a different plaster or it's meant to be the same and it's just faulty. I honestly don't know, so if you would please let me in the comments down below, like tell me if you had the same issue or if you actually noticed it's supposed to be a different plaster or not. I'm really curious about that. But yeah, what I was about to say is the plaster that actually worked with the right consistency of what I expect of plaster, it cured really smoothly and really dense. So I'm worried that when you actually put on oil, it may not get soaked up, because the like stone plaster oil diffuser I have actually is more porous. So I wonder if like there's any issue with that or if it works out perfectly. That being said, as I said, you can use many different molds with this. You can combine it with resin. They have like some nice amount of projects in there. I mean, you can like make 2 projects in total with what they suggest, but you have like much more plaster to actually make more projects, which is super nice. So you can like experiment and do a lot of different things with them. And I think also the stones are really pretty too. And like the idea to embed flower and plus and stuff, I think like the example looked really nice. It would have been nice to like see an example that is not like drawn, like a picture example of what that looks like. But I guess when you actually do it yourself, I guess you will see how that looks. But yeah, overall, besides the spilled glue, which I hope I'm like one of the only ones that happens to, I'm super happy with this box. It was amazing. It was something different, but I had so much fun working with plaster and all that stuff, and yeah. And I guess it's a less toxic alternative if you don't feel comfortable with resin to like try out. The only thing you really need is like some gloves if you don't want the plaster on your hands. And maybe if you don't want it down your drain, because you can just, you know, throw away the gloves. If you have them on your hand, then the plaster will go down the drain. And a mask, because plaster is dusty, plaster is activated by water, and you have water in your lungs, so it's not too pleasant to breathe in. But like when you actually poured it or when you mix it and it got wet, then you should be totally fine. There should be no dust anymore. And this plaster wasn't actually too dusty at all, and it mixed very easily. So yeah, I really love this. But let me know in the comments down below, what were your thoughts of this box? Did you get it? Did you skip it? And which projects did you make? Did you make your own? Did you make the suggested ones? And as always, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you have a good day. I see you next time. Bye!